it might be official by the time you see or hear this, but it does appear that U.S. men's national team have found their head coach in Mauricio Pochettino, the formerly of Espanyol, Southampton, Spurs, PSG, and Chelsea. Poch is on his way stateside, it seems, to pick up the pieces after Greg Berhalter's departure following Copa America. So let's bring in someone who's part of the U.S. soccer fabric, okay? A U.S. national team Hall of Famer, 128 caps for the States, and he's now a veteran of the media biz. Currently, he's an analyst for MLS Season Pass and Apple TV. And if he didn't have the best hair as a player, I don't know who did. Maybe Carlos Valderrama, maybe Chris Waddle, but great hair. Marcelo Balboa joins us. Marcelo, welcome to Footy Prime.
Well, thank you. First of all, let me help you out. This is where I'm at. Let me help you out. Number two, the long hair got me on one of the most ugly soccer players in soccer in general because of the mullet that I had in '94. So, yeah, I think I grew out of that mullet. But I'm good. I'm good on the beach, relaxing, and ready to talk a little footy with you guys.
All our guests have the best backdrops. You know, I can show you my like laundry room if you want. That's about as good as my backdrop gets right now. But that's great. But listen, let's get right to it. When Greg Berhalter was named as coach of the States twice, the term legacy was used a lot. That this is more than just results. It's about the big picture. Now in comes Poch, and it seems it's more like a simple, basic soccer coach hire. I get results now. Like, why the change in tone from U.S. soccer?
You know what? When Greg came in, Greg did a great job. I mean, let's be honest. He took a bunch of young kids who have never gone through qualifying, who got them ready to go. Because listen, and we all know that when you talk about Concacaf, it's not the easiest place to qualify in, with the fields in Honduras and Salvador, Costa Rica. The fans are crazy over there. They're difficult games. So when they went to Salvador, you saw their first game, they got a tie in El Salvador. So I think Greg did a good job, a really nice job with this group, got them through the World Cup. But, you know, we always talk about coaches, maybe one cycle and then you move on to the next. I think there came a point now where Greg kind of hit that ceiling. I think the players got a little too comfortable. And now it's time for change. This is our golden generation. We'll say that everybody's calling this the golden generation of players. And now you've got to deliver. And I think now we're at a point where U.S. soccer is in a position where you need to go hire that European coach that got big game experience, that has coached big players, that have been in big situations. So I think it was obvious that we were at a point where we needed a coach with that kind of experience.
It's a good point about this group of players who many fans see as the golden generation, right? And that's a dangerous term to use, right? We hear it all the time on many teams. Yeah. Do you agree? Is this the greatest talent that the U.S. team has ever had available to it?
Listen, it's debatable, you know what I mean? But when you look at this group of the position, I go back to '94 when we played. Most of us were in college. We're coming out of college. We trained 2 years as a national team. They gave us contracts. We lived together. We trained, which was unheard of, because most people at that time wouldn't open the door for an American player. The only way the door opened up is if we did a good job in '94. And after '94, that door opened up for us to go to Mexico, to Europe, to Spain, and all over the place. And now you're talking about players who are playing in some of the best teams in the world, who have won Champions Leagues, who are playing every week in the Champions League. So it's probably, when you talk about individual, I would say this is probably one of the most talented teams, but you got to be careful, because we talked about Belgium and this golden generation. And what has Belgium won? We talked about England and this golden generation of wonderful players they have. What have they won?
Don't do it, Jello. You just killed Sharms right there.
I know, but we're talking football. We're not going personal. We're not going personal. We're talking football. So, and if you go and you look at Spain now. Spain just wins the Euros, and you look at this group and you say, what can they do? What else can they do? This is their golden generation. They win the Olympics. It's like, oh my Lord, what is this team going to do in 2026? So this is probably the most talented group individually we've had in a while.
Do you think, though, that that's giving that golden generation a little bit of a pass, though, like to pin it on Berhalter? I mean, is that the USSF feeling like they're under the gun, they're under pressure because they're co-hosts of 2026, that you're like, we do have this great group, so talented, but we need somebody. We have to go outside our borders, get somebody, a big name coach, to come in to extract that potential, because it really hasn't come to fruition?
I think so. I think when you look at where we're at, and there's 3 countries that have pressure in this one. I think Mexico has a lot of pressure on what they're going through right now. And that's why they went and rehired Javier Aguirre. They went and hired Rafa Marquez. So you went and hired guys that already knew what the World Cup is about. So they're under the gun. Canada's under the gun because you're hosting, just like we are. The United States is under the gun because if you go back, people are saying US is number 1 in CONCACAF. People debate that between us and Canada. So, I think that we're at a point where we are under the gun, and we've got to get the most out of these individual kids that we can. And when you talk about walking into a locker room and you see Pochettino sitting there, who's going to say what to him? That demands respect right when you walk in. And I think Pochettino is going to be one of those coaches, and you hear and you read about things that if you don't play his way, if you don't fit his style, and if you don't put in the work, you're not going to be on the field. So, I mean, he's got a lot on the line too, because look at since he's left Tottenham, he's kind of sputtered around a little bit, we'll say. So I think everybody's got a lot of pressure, but the US, Mexico, and Canada have a lot of pressure because we're hosting this World Cup.
Do you care that he's not American? Is it a big deal to you?
I'm Argentinian. He's Argentinian. I'm good. And if you need a former player as an assistant coach, let me know. But no, listen, the one thing I didn't like was when the other regime was in, when they were looking for a national team coach, they said very clearly, this coach has to speak English. Okay. And I thought that was a little weird because you had Marcelo Bielsa sitting right there and he wanted the job. And because he doesn't speak English, you're not going to give it to him. Look what Uruguay's doing. I think we're at a point where we're done this. He has to speak English. We have to hire the best coach possible that's going to unlock the potential of this team, not of an individual, but of this team leading into the 2026 World Cup.
And did you see that? Sharms alluded to it before. Maybe you mentioned it yourself about the fact that the group got comfortable. Like, before we move off of that, I just wanted to ask you about your perception of that. Did you see a complacency with this group of players?
I don't see complacency, but I just see relaxation when you go to a national team. And most national teams, and I think that's where people were biting at Jurgen, and the players kind of rebelled because Jurgen would come in and have a proper training session. It wasn't a walkthrough. It wasn't a jog through. You went through a proper training session. And I think with Pochettino, it's going to be the same way. It's not going to be a walk in the park. You got to come in. You got to work hard. You're preparing not just for any World Cup. You're preparing for the 2026 World Cup that you are hosting, all 3 countries. That's why I say I think Canada and Jesse Marsch has a lot of pressure, because now that they've built this expectation of what they did in Copa America, they're expecting big things in 2026, just like Mexico. Mexico had a huge failure in this Copa America, and now they're under the gun to prepare. So I don't think there's complacency, but I think it's time to get these guys. Pochettino's not worrying about pissing off Weston McKennie or Tyler Adams. He's going there to do his job.
Cello, sorry, Sharms. I was just thinking about Copa, and I was watching Herculez Gomez on ESPN FC, and he's been on our show before, and he went off on the whole Copa thing. But was it a surprise to you about how badly U.S. men's national team fared, or was that kind of what you saw that was maybe going to go on?
Listen, I don't think they fared badly. I think it's so easy when a team fails to jump on a show or on a podcast and rip them. Let's be honest. There was one moment in these 3 games that hurt the opportunity for the U.S. to get out of the group. And that was Tim Weah losing his head and getting that red card. Without that red card, more than likely the U.S. wins that game, right? That gives them the points that they need to get into the next round. Are we having this conversation?
You're probably absolutely right. Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah. So there's one moment that in games, there's always a moment that can define that game, be it a mistake, be it a missed pass where they go for breakaway. There's always mistakes that lead to a goal. There was a huge mistake by Tim Weah, who lost his head. And when he lost his head, he got a red card. And that red card affected what the U.S. was doing. So did they fare well? No. But they didn't fare well because other situations. But did they play their best soccer? No, not one bit. Not when. That's not the U.S. team that we're used to seeing. That's not the team we're used to seeing attack and be gritty and fight. That's not what we're used to seeing. So I think that's why U.S. soccer finally made a decision. But you know what? We're athletes. You guys know we lose our head sometimes. We make mistakes in a game, and it cost them. And better to cost them in Copa America than the World Cup.
You mentioned Jesse Marsch there, and thank God that the US decided not to go down that path. He's not happy about. He's spoken out about it a few times now. Do you think he is the one that got away? Do you think he should have been given the job when?
Here's the deal. After the World Cup in 2026, we can have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. Because listen, having success in Copa America that's played in our home soil, you know what I mean, is one thing. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens in the World Cup. Is he the one we got away? You know what? I don't think so. I think Jesse's in a place where he probably belongs. You know what I mean? I think that we're at a point where we needed a big name, a big splash with these guys. So yeah, I think both countries are very happy with what they got right now. And we'll see what happens in 2026. That'll be their legacy. That'll be their defining moment. That is what we're going to talk about. Right? Because if Canada doesn't get out of the group, what are you guys going to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And if we don't get out of the group, we're going to talk about Pochettino not being the right coach, maybe. So we've got 2 years. Both coaches have 2 years to get their groups in order, to get them fighting. And you never know. At the end of the day, we've seen coaches fired 3 months before a World Cup and somebody else comes in. So like I said, I think both countries are happy with what they got.
And the States have this great team with really good youth, but there's also great youth coming through the system as well, right? The Caleb Wileys, Rokas Pukstas, Caven Sullivan. I mean, my God, we'll get to that 14 years old for crying out loud. Like, it seems that US football is going one direction right now. How long do you think before they are actually contending for the big championships?
You know, I think we're competing now, if I believe. I mean, you take away Copa America, the last Copa America. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like we're competing now. I think the academies have been a huge success of not allowing, and no disrespect, I think when you go to college, you're not playing a full year. If you're signing homegrown, you're able to keep these kids and play them 10 months out of the year. You're able to get them. MLS Next Pro games with the second teams. So I think we're moving in the right direction. The fact that you've got European scouts coming to United States to pick American kids out of the academy, and you're trying to sign them, is a positive for us. We've always wanted, and listen, I played in the era where we knew we weren't going to make a lot of money. We knew that the things that we were doing were just going to lay the foundation of what was to come. And I think when you look back, you see the foundation's pretty solid. Players are starting to move. Look, even the Canadian kids that are playing in MLS are being sold. So at the end of the day, is we have to keep developing our players. We have to keep putting them in the best position possible. And that means putting them in a position where they're uncomfortable. So they keep developing instead of putting them in a position where they're comfortable and they stop growing because it's too easy. So I think that we're moving in the right direction. We still have a ways to go, but we are moving in a direction, I think, that is very positive.
That youth development is one thing, but we were talking earlier today because Nico Seeger is a dual national. And we were talking about Jesse Marsch, his pedigree, his credibility. He's an engaging guy, can go out and maybe pull some of those dual nationals into the Canadian system. Do you think Poch can do the same thing for the US system to get those dual nationals? Brandon Vasquez is one. I mean, an Argentine yourself, Lucio Acosta, I know he's working to get his US his papers. So is that a possibility?
You know, I don't know if it's always the coach has to put the presentation out there, right? Because at the end of the day, the coach will be the guy, and the federations will be the last one to put that final touch if a guy's going to come or not. I think it's word of mouth. If the players are talking to each other, like Christian Pulisic talking to guys in Italy, you know, Weston McKennie in Italy, they're talking to each other when there's a chance. And I think players probably are more convincing than a coach right now, because they're trying to sell them on what the project is and what they want to do and how they see it coming. Look at the team we have. And then the coach puts that final touch of tactics of what they're looking to do, how the player fits into that system. But it's like anything else. Your best recruiting tool are your players out on that field, because you've got guys in England, you've got guys in Germany, you've got guys all over the world that are your eyes and ears for players. So yes, I think everybody has a hand in it, but I think the most important recruiting tool is the players on the field.
Is the NCAA still the route? I know Amy played at Nebraska. And I'm always sitting there, you know, is it still kind of the development for it seems like a lot of players still come out of NCAA, but is it the best way, using that college program as the springboard?
The beauty of our sport is there's more than one pathway. Okay, because not everybody's developed at 14 or 15 like this kid Sullivan. Some kids take a little longer. So yes, I think there's a homegrown path. I think there's a university path. There's a path to USL. So there's different paths. Because you may not have a kid at 17, 18 who has fully developed yet, and he needs to go to college for 2 years. You keep an eye on him in college for 2 years, you bring him back, and that's what you get. Look at Moise, who just got sold from the Colorado Rapids, Canadian player, who just got sold to Nice for I think it was somewhere around 7 million with benefits of this, so that could be 10 million. He went to college. He went to college, and look where he's at now. So I think there's many different pathways. I don't think you can lock it in, but I will say I think that if you can sign more kids as homegrowns, you're developing these kids in your system. They're playing 10 months out of the year. You know, they're not having to focus so much on the academic side, because if you don't keep your academics up, you can't play. So, and listen, I think college is very important. It took me, and you're going to laugh, it took me 31 years to graduate from San Diego State. So, you know what I mean? So I was blessed enough to be taken early and to play in a World Cup in 90, and I kind of put school behind me. And, but I knew the importance of school. So I went back and got my degree. And now, you know, I've had a pretty blessed life of being able to play soccer, get my degree, do broadcasting, and still involved. But everybody has a different pathway.
Well, and look at this. Sorry, I was going to say, look at this, Cello. You're on the Footy Prime podcast. Look what the paramount. You're at the top, buddy.
Look how far you've come, or how far you've fallen.
Any podcast is a good podcast to be on. Come on,
that's right. You know it. Top of the pyramid for sure. Do you know Vincent Détouche? Because I think Vincent Détouche. Vincent.
No.
Détouche? No, okay. He went to San Diego State as well. Maybe a different generation. He does the French.
Yeah, he may be younger than me.
Okay. You look great on camera. Maybe it's your backdrop. It's super flattering.
Yeah, that's why I did it, so you guys would look at the trees and not look at me. Good. See, this is TV. This is good TV.
It is good.
Background is better. TV. Here, if I do this, you won't even see me on TV. See?
Even though you're wearing a Rams shirt.
I know. I'm a Bears guy. Don't get me started.
So is the degree coming in handy, or is it like, damn it, I'm gonna fucking finish this thing one way or the other?
You know what? It took me an old dog. You can't teach new tricks, and once you get out of that mode of not being able to study and do things, so I went online. I went to SNHU, and I ended up finishing my degree about 2 years ago. Nice. But it took me a long time to finish 8 classes, because I just had a hard time at 50-something years old to wrap my head around going back to school and studying. But I had a lot of help from family and friends, and finally got it done.
Yeah, good for you. I'm done with learning. Listen, before you go though, the US job, right? As the game grows, and you mentioned all the pathways there, this is a nation that's becoming not just relevant in world football, right? It's becoming a destination for a lot of people, from the college ranks to the pro ranks. Would you say that the US men's job is one of the top jobs now in international football?
I don't know if it's a top job, but I think it's an interesting job. It's an interesting project because of the potential that we have with these players. You know, I mean, when you're talking about a top job, I think you're talking about Argentina. Who wouldn't want that job? Or Brazil or England, you know what I mean? But they also come with a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of pressure now in the United States because of how much we've grown with MLS, with Leagues Cup, with everything that we're doing here, with all, let's be honest, with Copa America, the World Cup of Clubs is coming here. We've got the World Cup coming. So I think it makes it a very intriguing job. Is it pressure? Now it is. 2 years leading into the World Cup that we're hosting with Mexico and Canada, I think it is a desirable job, but it's a very pressure-filled job because everybody will be watching the United States.
128 caps, I think is the official line, right?
Somewhere, right? You know what? They always take one away. They take a goal away. Out of somewhere 27, 28. Yeah.
We'll go there. 102 caps of Canada.
I'm absolutely shocked. I was looking around. I thought maybe they'd be a drone because you said we are going to talk about drones.
But
You guys didn't bring it up.
We can laugh at that. We can laugh at it. It's okay. It's not too soon.
I wanted to hit one more question, Marcelo. You played in Concacaf, and
yes,
if we had our full team here, it's Craig Forrest. You probably played against him.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And Jimmy Brennan, who came in. I don't know if you would have played with against them, but around the same time.
Yeah,
they're on our crew, but they always have great stories about Concacaf.
Okay,
can you regale us with one of the crazier stories if you have one? If you don't, then just any.
Well, it depends on which way you want to go. And by the way, I brought up the drone thing because I think that if you're using a drone to spy on people, our sport's finally made it. Well, let's be honest. We finally made it. We made it. Yep. We're spying on each other. It's
like
awesome.
We made it.
Exactly. Oh, no, listen, I think there's a few.
Look at it.
There's, you know what? Here's the deal. You can always look at things negatively. We can look at it positively. And you know what? It is what it is. We move on and we keep going. So I'll say this. We were getting ready to play Costa Rica in a World Cup qualifier before the 90 World Cup. And we went to go play there. And like every time we go somewhere, the power goes out a certain time of the night. The radio, the horns, the fire alarm goes off, all the typical stuff that we get the night before the game. So now we're getting ready to go to the bus, and we have to take the elevator down from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor. So we all jump in the elevator, and guess what happens? The power goes off. So now we're stuck in the elevator trying to get to our game. Okay. And we have to pry the elevator doors open, and we're in between floors. So we have to crawl out. 6 of us had to crawl out in order to go to the bus so we can make it on time to go to the game. That's one. Number two, we're playing in the 91 Gold Cup. Okay. And very first game, we're playing Trinidad. So 7 o'clock kickoff, bus shows up around 4. We get there around 4:30. So we're sitting outside waiting. We're kind of sitting around 4:15, 4:30, 5 o'clock comes, no bus. So now all of a sudden, the guy calls and said, the bus will be there in 10 minutes. Well, that bus tended to break down too somehow. Don't ask us how. We didn't have a bus. So about an hour and 15 minutes before the game, before our first game in the first ever Gold Cup, we are in cabs. And remind you, we're in actually right up the road here in Manhattan Beach. And Bora drives around with a bus, or not with a bus. Bora drives around with like an SUV. 6 of us jump in that. Other guys had to jump in cabs. We got to the game 45 minutes before the game. We had to get dressed, warm up, and then run out in the field and go play.
Jesus. Yeah.
Those are my fun stories.
Can I ask you about the elevator story? Was Lallis or Wijnaldum, any of the other guys in the elevator with you?
No. Okay. Bruce Murray was. And Bruce Murray was claustrophobic.
Oh, really? Just panicking to get out.
I got to be honest, though. We all kind of panicked a little bit. Not going to lie.
Yeah.
We're like, how do you get out of an elevator? What happens if the power turns on and it drops in between floors? So we panicked a little bit.
I was stuck in an elevator once with Craig Forrest, and
nice.
He was going to start eating me at some point. He was hungry as hell. He's a big boy.
Is that because you're on a rugby team getting in an airplane?
Yeah, in the Alps. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. There you go.
Andes.
Marcelo, thank you so much for this, mate. Really enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing Poch and what he can do, and hopefully that first match against Jesse Marsh, right, in September against Canada.
Exactly. That's going to be a blast, man. I think it's a celebration for the fans. I think it's Fan Appreciation Day in Kansas, so it's going to be fun. I think both teams are going to hopefully have a wonderful World Cup. They both have 2 wonderful coaches, and let's hope that we're all successful in CONCACAF in that World Cup.
Absolutely. Marcelo, thanks, mate. We'll do it again sometime, but have a
anytime,
great
guys. Anytime.